All right, there we go. So, good morning, Hubert Payne. We have Hubert on here joining Tim and I this morning. So I connected with Hubert. We were just going through it real quick on the event Coach Michael Burt did called Purpose to Profit. The point of that was summarizing your purpose, finding your talents, and how do you monetize what you're specifically the best at in the world and turn it into profit so you can help as many people as possible, with your purpose, following your purpose. And Hubert was on there with Coach Burt, and so was nice enough to, he said, "Hey, everybody, follow me on Instagram." I followed him on Instagram, said, "Hey, man, I really loved your message." He reached back out pretty immediately and said, "Hey, anything I could ever do to help, please let me know." Two weeks later, I messaged him back. I asked him one time, "Hey, could we jump on a call and ask you some questions?" And you said, "Yep, absolutely." And Tim and I were joking this morning. We're saying like Hubert has 6 children. He's the drummer for the band Little Big Town, and he also has a performance coaching company. It was like, this guy is crazy busy, and I cannot believe that he said yes, just immediately. So it's very strong character, your willingness to do it. I appreciate it very much. So thank you for jumping on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Happy to be here, buddy.
I appreciate it. So yeah, no, Tim and I, again, we're just kind of going through it. Just a little bit more intro, I'll give you just the brief background. So again, drummer for Little Big Town, that is amazing. Yeah. And then you have your own family. So, number one thing I wanted to really ask, I guess, would you mind, telling us about yourself, what got you into the coaching space after working at such a high level in the music industry? And then we have, maybe some more specific questions off of that.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I'm definitely in my purpose, and I move on my convictions. So if I get a chance to speak or share my story or help, I enjoy it, and I'm really grateful for it. So so my idea of coaching, people ask me all the time, like, when did you get into coaching? I think I was always coaching. I actually think we are all always coaching. Here's what I mean. We are always negotiating with our internal environment. We're always, I believe that narratives drive behavior. And I do come from an athletic background. I was a college football player. I kind of organized my whole life experience around that up until about 24 years old. And I kind of transitioned into music. And I found myself, probably because my dad was a coach. He's a famous musician. I found myself always being in that kind of relationship with people, walking with them or inspiring them to be better, perform at a higher level. And I got to a point where I was literally, and I still am, living my dream, playing with Little Big Town. And I said, I've basically played around the world. I've played every night show multiple times. I've played on the Grammys. I've done this. I want to serve people on a deeper level, right? Because I've served as a musician. I feel like there's more in my tank. I got more to offer. So initially, I started off in ministry school. So I went to ministry school for about 2, almost 3 years.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to be a pastor. That was my plan. And I kind of morphed that into labeling it coaching, because I just wanted to walk with people. And I also wanted to walk with people who didn't maybe believe the same way I did.
Yeah.
So the becoming a pastor turned into life coach. And through the pandemic, I had an awesome experience where I was able to link with Onsite Workshops. Onsite Workshops is it's like the NFL of trauma treatment.
Okay.
Here in Tennessee, they have like 250 acres, and it's a retreat-based place where people come and work on trauma. So it could be anything from a parent who's lost a child to I've I've experienced public shame at my job, um, to we're getting a divorce yesterday,
Yeah.
and we're here trying to salvage it, and being in those rooms, I took my coaching technique and I kind of just formed a different posture, because I started realizing, like, number one, from working there, I realized that it's very important to understand your story and how
Mm.
you got to where you are, and able to go forward. Like, I can tell you all day, suck it up,
Yeah.
dig down, willpower. When you want it bad enough, you'll go get it. But what I found was a more curious approach, more of an approach of holding space for people and allowing healing to come up instead of pushing people to what they aspire to be,
Yeah.
was a lot more effective. So I kind of created this pseudo Swiss Army knife coach, right? This coach who has spiritual sensitivities, this coach who has somewhat of a therapeutic background where I can go back into your history and your story in a very unique and safe way, and then paint a vision of what you want. And I
Mm.
help people build who they need to be to sustain that vision.
That's
So that's how I'm here. So with the coaching.
That makes sense. The creating a compelling future is the
Yeah.
phrase. That's like, I think, a Tony Robbins, or he didn't make it up, but I think I might have heard it the first time through that sort
Yeah.
of thing. And that's an amazing way to approach it. I think we're in what you said too, as far as approaching it, where like you don't want to limit your ability to help people by just positioning yourself as someone who is a pastor, in the sense that, I mean,
Right.
personally, like, there's no problem with that. I agree with it, but it's something where you're approaching a broad audience as possible, is what it sounds like. The
Yep.
intention. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hubert, I love a couple things you said there. The most recent was, who do they need to become to get to where they want to go
Right.
in the future, and kind of, you guiding them through that, not pushing them.
Mhm.
I think that's so important, and tapping into feeling the feelings now, to get to where you want to go, and that gratitude, following that path to get to where you're going. I think that's huge. And I think
Yeah.
what makes you unique in this space, from everything I'm hearing, is, you truly are focusing on their best interest long term. I think,
Yeah.
if just from what I see and hear in the industry, I think there's a lot of people that they maybe get into it for the wrong reasons. They look at it
Right.
as like, oh, coaching's a good medium to, monetize my time. You are the complete opposite. You are just focusing on, taking your gifts and skills,
That's right.
getting people to be the best version of themselves. And I'm sure you've
Yep.
seen that has, helped you grow massively. I'm sure, just by focusing
Yeah.
on the best interests of others.
Yep.
So I guess, can you talk more about that? It kind of, how you've grown into that space, I guess, and what you've seen by focusing on others, and how that's benefited you and your family, I guess.
Well, with the work that I do as a coach, the number one thing is I can't even do it unless I'm doing it for myself, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't connect, it doesn't land, unless I'm doing the work myself. And what I've learned, man, I'm 39 years old. I've been touring, playing drums since I got out of college. Um, so I've played in front of thousands of people. At this point in my life, I usually play about 2 or 3 shows, a little big town a week, and every moment is captured. Somebody's got a camera out, and it's going to
Yeah.
end up on YouTube, right? So what I realized is, man, okay, how do I survive this, right? Well, my performance moment is always being documented, and it's very important for me to have an elite skill set to execute my job. I learned that in my own culture with myself, I got to have a real compassionate um, feel when it comes to myself and how I feel about what I'm doing, my performance, and it only makes sense that I treat other people that way.
Mhm.
And so I have a ton of coaching technique, but none of it matters if I'm not approaching it with the right spirit, right?
Right.
So, Nashville is the NFL of musicians, man. Everybody's moving here to play,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, man, you gotta be you gotta be elite. You gotta be one of the best, because Johnny from Oregon was the best drummer in the state, and he's moving to Nashville, and he would love to play with Little Big Town, right?
Yeah.
But I found at a point being a great musician is kind of like if it was 10 people and you'd say who speaks the best. Everyone is from different places. They got different accents. It's just about what your preference. So what I found was, man, it's going to be really hard for me to compete my way to being the best. But if I can lean into my most authentic version of myself playing the drums, then that will add value, right? And it will stick out like a sore thumb because I'm attaching to, the deepest parts of me and the authenticity. So in my coaching, that's what I'm trying to help people do, right? And I talked about this last night in my group. I'm kind of going a little bit, but I was super passionate about this. I had a group last night, and I was talking about the gift of trauma and the gift of resistance and running into a wall. And the gift is when we face a traumatic event, and we have a response to that traumatic event. On the other side of that is a connection to our undamaged version of us, right? It's a connection to the most authentic part of us. Because if you think about any resistance, when you don't get the job or you get a no, or things don't work out, the relationship doesn't work out, you have to really tap into what are my authentic needs around this? What do I want moving forward? Like, who am I truly to the core? And that's the only way to get to healing. And if we never face the wall, we would never have a reason to do that.
Right.
So for me, the culture that I had to have to raise a huge family, take care of my wife, to be a great performer as a musician, the culture that I needed to have with myself and the way that I'm organizing my experience, I just use that in my coaching, and it lands. It's funny. It's such a different thing. I don't think people are broken, right? I don't think that I'm broken. I think that I struggle with certain things, and there's bad messaging in certain places. And in the work that I try to work on myself every morning, every day, I'm just trying to get into those narratives and making sure it's from the mission down, right? And I just take that approach with my clients, and it seems to connect.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's amazing. And I think what you said too, you made me think of the movie A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga, and the way that relates, in the sense that like that story is a little bit about it's about her come up and how she made it, right? Where there's a section in that movie, her dad says to her, like, Frank Sinatra wasn't the best singer, he was not the best dancer, but whenever he was on stage, he became Frank Sinatra, and no one else could do that. That's because he was the best version of himself on stage, where everyone else was, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta perform, everyone's gonna judge me. He was on stage and he's like the swagger and like, how do you perform in front of 60,000 people 3 nights a week? Where it's like, you gotta be confident in your ability and you just gotta like let it flow. And that's what people connect to, I think, on a stage or in a coaching environment, where it's like, that guy doesn't need to be here. He's having a good time doing this, and he legitimately cares about me. Like, and it comes through. So off of that, the 2 questions I was saying, they kind of are one and the same, but I think with what you said, judgment might be the first more appropriate one, where judgment, like, using it to protect yourself is the way that you've phrased it. So I guess talk a little bit more about that then, talking about judgment, how it can block people, keep them rigid and limited from doing what you just said, where you're approaching a stage, everyone's recording you, if you're not feeling comfortable, if you're judging yourself, how can that keep someone limited and more rigid?
Right. Yeah. So here's the deal with judgment. There's really not a way to completely erase judgment, because we're all trying to, like I say, organize our experience, right? We see stimulus, we want to make some sense of it so we can feel safe. When that judgment starts to get into a critical area, we start being very critical about every experience and the people around us. It limits us. And my answer to that is leaning more into curiosity, right? So if I meet someone, there's going to be some type of judgment where I'm trying to make sure I'm safe. But beyond that, I like to teach and to walk in being more curious, because if I can be curious, then I have access to my skills. My soft skills is what I call it, right? If I can be curious, then I can build a bridge of connection between me and another person, right? And then that conversation will lead to more trust and being more comfortable. And then I got way more information to make a way better decision, right? So what I see a lot of times, um, judgment it stunts growth. Like for me, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I didn't see anyone who looked different for me until I got to high school,
Yeah.
right? And I went to end up going to boarding school where a lot of times I was the only one who looked like me. And I learned really quick that we got a lot more things in common than not, right? And there's been so many instances in my life where now I'm a country music drummer. I pretty much have only really ever toured and played country music. Now judgment could have really gotten away of all that. If there was a time where I said, I want to play more with people who I feel comfortable with, but getting out of that judgment, and I got more curious about my authentic self, which was I really just want to play drums, and that opened the door to more relationships. It opened the door to me realizing, like, you know what, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I came down here to play football, but it's Music City. And there are people playing drums downtown in every bar at every moment of the day. So it makes sense if I'm curious about my environment and my authentic needs to go and play where their drums are, right? Instead of being very judgmental, oh, they don't want me to play there, or I would never like that, right?
Right.
I chose to lean into curiosity, and that helps. It helps a lot. Even with my babies now, with my wife,
Yeah.
trying to be more curious as opposed to judgmental.
Yeah. No, that's phenomenal too. It's the phrase where it's, don't be so impressed with it, be involved with it,
Yeah.
impressed by, but you want to be more involved. Like you get on the stage, you're like, holy crap, do I belong here?
Right.
in whatever way that is. Where Ed Milet is a guy that I really love to listen to
Yeah.
all his
Love
podcasts
Ed.
too, where it's just like the feeling of like, when are they going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing all the time? Just
Sure.
like, and just if you just
Yep.
judge yourself so hard, like you just can't let it flow through you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough way to go about it, man, with the judgment deal. Um, and on that, I think it's really important, especially for me now with huge family, growing my business. Um, there's no way that I can do more than what I was
yeah,
already doing. I'm a full-time musician as well. I had to focus on my input in the way that I'm showing up. So when I get my performance moment and I step on stage, I'm not trying to do more. I'm being. So I'm
yeah,
more focused on my way of being. Like, what are the steps before I'm actually, being in the world? Like, what are my narratives? Focusing on that and chasing my inspiration. That way, when I wake up, everything that I'm doing, I'm really passionate about it.
yeah. No,
Everything,
that's
right?
awesome.
Take responsibility for that. Yeah.
No, that's
I love the fact that you said like getting to the point where you're just going to be present, live in the
Yep.
moment, be your authentic self. And I mean, I think people can feel that. I mean, I can feel
Yep.
that now just talking to you. Is like
Yeah.
when you tap into your authentic self and you live in the moment, that is the truest form of yourself.
Yep.
And I think that just resonates with anybody that you're going to interact with. So I think that's huge. We can all take a note on that one.
I agree. And so again, with Coach Burt, I mentioned it before we started the call. Tim and I saw him this past weekend. Again, that's where I first saw and connected with you. And so we saw him on Saturday. He came to Cleveland to speak. And one of the things that you said ties into what, he said at his presentation, where he's like, do you think Journey wants to play Never Stop Believing? Like, do you think they want to do that again? It's like, however, it's like they do. A part of them does, but in order to come onto that stage, play the song that they've played potentially hundreds of thousands of times.
Yeah.
All of us know all the words, and it's, but, in order to perform that at the level that they want, it's not so much just like they know what to do, but it's focusing on like, all right, all the things that happened earlier today. It's like just not judging it, like moving it into a like your internal environment, I guess, is what you want to say. So that's the phrase I'm trying to look for. And so with that then too, one of the other things, and this is like with yourself and then with other people, the concept of explaining versus exploring.
Man.
You're saying in your family, in your business, or really any conversation. Can you walk us through, how you use that concept for others? Because I really like the example you put on Instagram, talking about your daughter breaking an iPad, where it's like, it's this and So could you walk us through the concept, explaining versus exploring, and what's important really to you about that?
Yeah. So the deal is, 5 of my babies are under 9, and you can imagine there's a lot of explaining in my house. So my daughter Jordan will come and she's telling me and my wife, my iPad is broken. B stole it, my son, and then London lost it, and then Parker, she dropped something on it, and now it's broken. And I realized real quick, a lot of times my wife and I will look at each other and laugh because we're like, what do we do with this? We can't explain into the situation. It leads to no resolve. And it just continues this cycle of explaining, right? And we try to take more of an approach of exploring, right? So if that's the issue, if the issue is the broken iPad, as soon as we say explore, it automatically gives us more access to empathy for her and the situation, and we get inside of what's really going on, and then we can set new boundaries. Hey, Jay, next time, make sure you put your stuff up in your room and don't leave it out. And she felt seen and heard, because we're giving her attention, right? And we could set boundaries, which means we have access to our skill set as parents that we're still developing, right? And we're exploring a new way to do this and solve this problem. Now, I draw a line to our internal environment, right? How many times do we have things from our past that we try to explain? We'll call someone, we'll call a friend. Can you believe this? This happened to me today at work, and these people did this. And we think that someone holding space to tell them how we feel is going to help us. We hang up the phone, there's no resolve, right? Because we're trying to explain our way through. Another approach is if we explore, well, what was that person's needs and what were my expectations? And what new boundaries can I draw, right, around that situation to gain more awareness on how to do it better the next time? So we'll get into therapy and explain our way around our problems. We'll get into a relationship with other people, and 2 people are explaining, right? And if you're explaining, most of the time you're defending. And if I'm defending, I'm not listening.
Exactly.
If we both could come to the table and explore, what are our expectations for each other? What boundaries do we need to set in place? How do we want to do this the next time so we don't get here to miscommunication? It's just so many more gifts, access to more skills, because we're lowering our anxiety, because it becomes a learning, and we become more resourceful automatically when we lean more into exploring versus explaining.
No, so I completely agree. And the other part of that you said too, with expectations, then it's all unhappiness is coming from unmet expectations. For the most part, pretty much always. And that's I love the real life example where, like, I don't have any children, and neither does Tim, but I can empathize, and just like, it's like I can picture it where it's like, Dad, this, and then he broke it, and you're like, okay, it's 7:30 in the morning.
Right. Then I start explaining my position. I don't have time for this. Or, man, your mom was trying to do this, and that's not productive, because then she doesn't feel heard, seen, and that can cause issues. So
it's not about making your child, obviously, but anybody wrong. Where you're trying to work through that with them. Something that I've found, and my girlfriend actually taught me this too, where whenever you are feeling tense like that too, where it's like just asking the question. This is obviously to another adult, not necessarily a child, but it's like, what do you what are you looking for from me? What are you looking for from me right now? Like, are you just kind of looking to talk?
Yep.
Are you trying to like tell me so I can try to help you solve it? Because
Yep.
sometimes you just need to talk, and sometimes you are asking for help to solve it. But if you're just looking to talk and someone's trying to help you solve it, then you're like, just listen to what I'm saying,
Right.
but then you have to be open to that, too, where, you have to communicate your intentions with, are you
Absolutely.
going to complain, and
Absolutely.
through that sort of thing. So,
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
no, I think, those two topics really, like the explaining versus exploring and the judgment, just to tie it back into like the business side of things as well. You've said a couple different times, like when someone, you call someone and, they say no, or they kind of brush you off or whatever. I think it's really easy. So especially just in the real estate space, any business really, but real estate specifically, because there's a lot, it's something that I had to learn just with sales, is like not tying your self-worth into your job. In the
Absolutely.
sense that, you're not just judging yourself, where it's usually someone's either brushing you off because you might not be communicating the value that you're trying to add as well as you could be.
That's right.
You're just explaining stuff to them. You're not exploring into like how you can actually help them.
Yeah.
What do they actually need help with? They're trying to move to Florida. Their child needs to get into this specific school district because they have special needs. They need help with
That's right.
that. There's always the timing and the underlying, motivation. So, my question is like, how have these things helped you, as far as just like growing a business, where it's like, now that
Yeah.
you've developed these skills, maybe any examples come to mind of like maybe getting a client that you didn't think you were going to get, or like making a call and like something like that. Is there anything that comes to mind that you might want to share?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Here's what I'm finding. And it started because I know that I have a heart to help people get from A to B. So I have a relationship I work with the NFL. I work with the Packers, and I met an agent, and I went down and met his team in Florida a couple weeks ago. And I was going in thinking, oh, this would be great. Maybe I can serve as a coach under his umbrella and serve his players. He's got about 25, 30 guys.
Wow.
And man, I get down there and I meet his team, and it went really well. And that following week, he called me, and he basically start sharing some of his problems in his business.
Mm.
He's like, man, I really need to figure out my team. Have I got the right people? I have no structure in place to track performance or metrics. And because I took more of a curious attitude towards this business relationship, now I could have went in, hey, well, this is what I do as a coach, and this is let me get some of your players, and this is who I am, and this is how I'm showing up in the world. This is what I do. But I took more of a curious, hey man, how can I help you? How can I help you level up in your business? And now I don't know that I would make this move, but he would love nothing more for me to come in and just work on his team and help organize his business using a part of my coaching skill set, but a lot of other skills, because I'm just basically saying, hey man, show me where your pain points are,
Right.
and then I'll build something to solve those problems, because I'm being curious with my skill set instead of publishing this one lane, right? So that's going to open me up to a lot more opportunities, and it already has. So I actually took that model. I took that model of, okay, let me approach another agency with this white piece of paper and let me go in, hey, show me your pain points, right? So then I become more of a consultant / coach, right? All in the same wheelhouse, but I'm approaching my avatar, what I call it, the people who I want to serve, my people, with, hey, let's be curious together about what can level you up.
Yeah.
And then I'll see if I can match my skill set with it. And then so I'm actually building the deal according to the need, as opposed to coming in and this is who I am, this is what I do, and take it or leave it.
Do you think that being a musician and a drummer has helped you with that, in the sense that you have the skill set, and you know how to play the drums, you know how to be a coach, but my question is, do you think being a musician that has had to play the drums with multiple different bands has helped you develop that skill to move in? Because like my sister's boyfriend's a drummer. Like he went to Berkeley. He's a jazz drummer. He lives in New Orleans, and same sort of attitude towards it, where he's like, you guys tell me what you need. Like I can play the drums, you know, like it's just like, and you can't just go in there and be like, I'm the best at this. They're like, no, you're not. You know,
exactly.
It's just like, what do you need to fit in on this song? Like it's kind of like you just kind of groove in, you play with them, you know, you figure it out.
That's a good word.
Yeah. Is that, like, do you think that skill is like, you learned that and now you do it in business is what I'm saying?
100,000%, buddy. That word you said, groove. Here's what I found. Here's the gap. Here's the secret sauce. I saw a lot of people in Nashville. It's like most musicians, they're these child prodigies. They've studied music their whole life, and they come into town and it's like, hey, this is who I am. And it's just about, I got to meet the right person that's going to introduce me to everybody who I need to know. I'm going to get my Instagram up and you're going to see this is who I am. This is what I do. And then I'm going to be off. And I took a different approach. Not always intentional, but I was still identifying as an athlete. So I was just more open, like, man, who do I need to be great? And what I found was if I can come into a band situation and I can make it feel a certain way to where everyone else is inspired to do their job, that will put me in demand. So I would hear people say, oh man, when you played, it felt great, or the groove was great. So I was like, oh man, okay. So I can, this is the secret sauce. It's my interpretation of what's happening, not necessarily what I'm doing. And my interpretation is based on, I understand the drums enough to listen to other people.
Yep.
So when I'm playing with highly skilled musicians, I'm basically being the glue that holds it all together, and it makes the whole presentation great. And because I got a servant's attitude and a servant's heart, people just want to work with me, right? More people want to work with me. So there is no agency that helps me get gigs. There is no management firm, or I literally, you have to play great enough and enough times that enough people are like, man, when I need to play live, I need to call Hubert.
Right.
So I found that just serving that situation on a super deep level gives me staying power. And the secret sauce is focusing on my interpretation of the moment and being, playing from a place of gratefulness and listening. And so I do that in business. I still feel grounded because I'm living for my authentic self.
Right.
I just got rid of the limiting beliefs of I can't do that because I don't look like that. Right. I can't do that because I didn't listen to that. I'm like, no, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
I love that piece. The couple words you just said. I figured out, where it's like, it's the confidence in yourself to know. It's like, for playing the drums, it's walking and talking for you. Like, you're not really, you're thinking, but not really. You're on autopilot. And then that allows you to just, you're doing it and you're looking at them, just trying to, like, you're getting the timing down, and you build it, where it's like that. I'm happy that you agree, because it would have been bad if you didn't. But like the thought is like, I wonder if he learned that from that. It just 100%. It makes sense, where like you trust in your skill set enough. And again, with real estate, what it makes me think of too is like, I'm calling strangers. I go to their house. It's like, it's such a weird way to make money. It's like, I call a stranger, I go to their home, I sit down with them at their dining room table, and I talk to them. And it just like, and if you are if you're off, and if you're not comfortable and confident that you can actually help them, they're going to be uncomfortable in their own home. Yes. And that's not the feeling you want to convey. So with the business attitude, or the business aspect rather, I think that just goes so far. So I appreciate you sharing that story.
Dude, on that, a lot of times in my coaching, I find if there's a lack of confidence, I like to point people to be curious about sacrifice and skill in their own skill development. Because a lot of times we'll deflect, excuse me, and we'll say, oh man, I'm cold calling and I'm not getting enough yeses. And then we'll get judgmental. Where if you really felt like in your heart you had something to offer that can help people, and it's a really valuable skill set, um, you'd have a different level of confidence, right?
Yeah.
And I think now when I play drums, people feel the amount of hours that I've spent in
Mm.
solitude. When it comes to coaching, you'll feel the amount of hours that I spend reading and
Mm.
working on myself and holding space for people. And I think it's very important. Most people miss this. When you find uh, this is what I do. What are the skills attached to that? Spend time developing those skills
Mm.
and what you bring to the table, right?
Mm.
Because to me, I'm like, man, if I had to, I would go to the gas station and set up some drums and put a cup out because I know I can add value.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's just it's a certain kind of beauty that you find from spending time with skill development,
Yeah.
and it comes across in a really special way.
That's
And
yeah.
that's the biggest part of sales to me.
I I agree. I mean, and it's exactly that. It's you have the skill to do it, and then that just conveys through you. Where it's just like you would be
Yep.
sitting at a gas station playing drums with a cup out, and eventually someone will walk by and be like, "Hey man, what are
Yeah.
you doing tonight? Like my drummer just
Yeah.
quit."
Yep.
Seriously, and like I'm
Yep.
sure I can't think of a story, but like I mean, John Mayer played guitar at a gas station. He went down and like he just started doing stuff. I just have John Mayer tickets. I'm going to sell to Tim and his wife. That's why I thought of that one.
Oh
But,
man.
For a discounted rate, of course.
well, yeah, we'll get to that. But it's like so many great musicians, so many great business stories are like the person just got very good at a couple or maybe one thing, and
Yes.
then they were able to again, and that's why the Purpose to Profit event was so great to see you on too, because it's in summary everything that you just said, where it's like you just said it. You're like I know that I'm serving people through what I'm really good at, and
Yeah.
your attitude towards it's absolutely amazing.
There's
Yeah.
so many. I feel like I'm gonna go back and watch this like 1,700 times and take notes on it and learn something new
Yeah.
every time. And Hubert, I feel like there's so many things I do want to ask you, but I completely agree and love everything you're saying. And I guess I have a question on spending some time developing your skills. Clearly
Yeah.
you have done that tenfold over, and I think that ties into who you authentically are.
Yeah.
Can you talk maybe a little bit more about the process of like the self-actualization process, figuring out your skill sets and like how to really tap into that for people that are maybe unclear on what that looks like, I guess?
Okay. So I'll go with my country music drummer journey.
Mhm.
Number one, it was important for me to get in the right environment. So like I said, in Nashville, man, it's a street called Broadway, and it's maybe 3 blocks long on both
Mhm.
sides of the street, just bar after bar after bar. And it's at this point it's literally 3 levels in most bars,
Mhm.
which means it's a band playing on every level. And they work in shifts. So it's 11 in the morning to 2, 2 to 6, 6 to 10, and then 10 to 2 a.m. And every one of those shifts is a different band. And they're all playing around the same 100 country songs. And the way that it works is someone will come up and they'll play $20 for a Johnny Cash song. And if you want to play and you want to get more gigs, you got to know that Johnny Cash song.
Yeah.
So my environment, okay, I felt like, okay, that's an environment conducive for skill development. Then it became a question of I used conversation to point me in the right direction. And what I mean is, hey man, who's your favorite drummer? Who's your
Mhm.
favorite drummer down here? Uh, Ian. He plays at Legends at 6 on Thursdays. Why do you like Ian? Oh man, he's actually just always got a smile on his face, and the drums feel good. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
go watch. I'm gonna be really responsible for my curiosity, right?
Mhm.
That's a big thing with me. So I'm gonna go watch Ian. Not only am I going to go watch Ian, I'm going to meet Ian. And I want to learn Ian's culture. So I'm going to take it a step further. Hey, Ian, I enjoyed you playing, man. You mind if I get your number so we can hang out? When I go hang out with Ian, I'm learning his culture. What does he do all day?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, Ian literally practices all day. He doesn't really do much else but spend time with the drums. So I learned his culture. And hey, Ian, how do you learn songs? I'm asking questions, using conversation to build my toolbox. So then, okay, cool. That's Ian. I got Ian in my bag. Then I go to someone else, or I just make my own observations. I'm watching drummers, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm really being honest about where I am, and I notice, okay, my phrasing doesn't really fit country songs and lyrics. So I'm gonna watch this guy. This guy does a great job of it. I'm gonna try to just glean as much as I can from watching him. So now I got this guy and Ian in my bag, right? And in my practice time, I'm basically trying to build a mean average of maybe the 10 best drummers that I've seen on Broadway in a very focused way. So I always coming to the table every morning. Okay, I need to work on my dynamics. I need to work on my feel. Wait a minute, I don't know enough country songs.
Right.
Because they told me that Jason, they like the way Jason plays because his catalog of songs is very deep. So I'm constantly challenging myself to use my creativity to figure out what's next in my skill development.
That's so good.
And I'm being the mean average of the 10 guys I love, right? And after a while, what I found was, I mean, now if I walked on Broadway tonight, chances are I'm gonna hear someone playing a song that I played on the radio, and it blows my mind. And I'm like, I went from learning number one songs to now people are playing my songs. Right. and I attribute that to being curious and using creativity to figure out what's next to study. Right. So then that process becomes actually the joy of everything.
Yep.
So yeah, I had a goal of, man, I wanted to go to the top and play with a Little Big Town or another A-list artist. But that journey of skill development, that's what drove me. That's what excited me. The process of like, ooh, okay, where are my blind spots? Where's somewhere this dude can pour into me, and I'm gonna be open to it, right?
That's such a good example. I think because you hear the phrases like you're the average of the 5 or 10 people you spend the most time with, or you know, hey, you got to enjoy the process. And it's like, yeah, but that's the process where it's like, enjoying the process is making friends with people who do what you want to do, and then you learn from them. It's the Coach Bird. It's like, I'm looking for people that are hungry, humble, and coachable, because you're never not going to be able to improve in some way, you know, like, and if you just think it's like, I'm the best drummer in this entire country, it's like, guess what? You probably, you know, and if you are not being open to it's the hungry, humble, coachable. I love that phrase. Because someone will be able to teach you something, whether it's older, younger, new music, like, and I think that's so amazing. Like, it just comes full circle where you're like, I was the guy who was trying to learn the songs, and now people are learning mine, you know. And that doesn't happen if you don't, you pass it on, pay it forward. You know, the people that poured into you, you know, now you pour into others. And I think that's just
absolutely
an amazing way to approach it.
So that's a big part of the circle, right? I spend a lot of my energy trying to help younger musicians. And man, if I hear about an opportunity or if I can't do something, I'm gonna take 2 or 3 steps trying to you know, give that opportunity to someone I'm in relationship with, because people did it for me. Because it's really funny, man, when people see that healthy curiosity, like, man, this dude really wants to learn.
Yeah.
They will go above and beyond. And then after a while, it becomes like this authority and respect. Like, man, if you call Hubert, that dude's gonna know the music. He's gonna show up with a smile, and his skill set is gonna be like, you know, to the moon. So a really important part of that is, man, like doing your part and helping other people level up. That's why I'm so passionate about coaching.
Well, and you build your reputation, I think, is what you just described too, where like you meet enough people. To be honest with you, I was surprised that you said yes so quickly to come on an interview with us. So again, I appreciate it, where I was like, wow, it's like he said, hey, let me know how I can help you. And then I asked and you're like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Seeds, man. Seeds. All about sowing seeds, man.
And I just, again, I appreciate it so much. And I say that as obvious proof that you are practicing what you preach, where like, this isn't the first time that you're doing that, where it's like, hey, I wonder, how I can help these guys. And so, no, again, I appreciate you jumping on with us. Tim, did you have maybe any other questions or anything you're thinking?
I mean, I definitely, I just want to say thank you so much, Hubert. I mean, everything you're saying, I think people can take this and run with it. And, what I'm noticing is like, everything goes so well when you focus on being your authentic self, helping others, being curious, not judging. Like if you were to judge Ian, you would have never, gotten that skill set of matching his music with yours. And then it all comes full circle. And I think that, it sounds like for you, when you focus on that and staying curious and helping others, then all the other little things that most people wake up and worry about just seem to fall into place just by giving back. I mean, I think that's huge, and it's an amazing way to live.
Yeah. So on that, I call it the technique of belief, because I base my energy around seed sowing, according to my mission. Right, the mission that I live by, it gives me a different kind of fitness to not focus on my vision, because as soon as we start trying to do something great, the things we see are going to tell us nope. Nope, take your energy over here. No, you can't do that. What about these things that you hadn't handled yet? Nope. And when I live from the mission down, it's about the seeds that I sow and understanding that I'm going to get there, and I'm on my path of destiny because I'm chasing my mission. And it gives me a different kind of fitness to deal with the everyday life stuff that comes against us when we're trying to build, right? So the technique of belief that's the technique. Can you establish your mission and sow seeds according to that mission? Organize your energy according to that mission, because that's the gift that you'll get, is the fitness to deal with the things that you may see that come in contrast to where you're trying to go. And I work a lot with that with teams. What's your technique of belief? What's your 1 to 10? What's your ability to believe in your mission?
Yeah.
And if you want to raise it, start sowing seeds, right? And if you're going to respond to what you see, you'll get what you see.
I'm going to think about that for like the next 3 days. That's a really good. No, I'm serious. I very much like that. The technique of belief is, I mean, you could apply that to literally everything. It's just how you approach everything. Yeah, that's phenomenal. No, I really, I'm not joking. I'm definitely I'm gonna watch it again myself. And anyone who does watch this, please watch that last like 2 minutes again. I think that was so good. So, no, Hubert, I appreciate it very much, man. Tim.
Thanks for having me, man.
If you have any other questions, Tim, I was going to say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hubert. I mean, I just want to get down to Nashville now and come see you. That's all.
Hey, come on. Come to the space. Come to the space, man.
If and when. I have a good friend who lives in Nashville too, and maybe we can just come down. If I'm there, I'm going to give you a call.
Please do. Please do, buddy.
But again, anyone who watches this as well, Hubert Payne on Instagram. I was going to say, maybe if you wanted to share just some ways that people could follow or reach out to you if they wanted to connect via coaching or.
Yeah, Hubert Payne at gmail.com. HubertPayne at Gmail. We're getting a website up. I also run the space, which is a mental and emotional health gym. This is a place where you can come and work on your heart, pump some iron on your heart and the way you're showing up in the world. So I'm really excited about what Coach Bert and I are building. Yeah, and awesome. If I can help you, reach out, please do.
All right. Awesome.